All right, all right. What's going on, everybody? Hope you had a great weekend. I had a very, very productive weekend. It was one of those weekends where, yes, I worked a lot. I made time for my family and did all the things. But I also really did a lot of catch up this weekend. And just so you know, there's nothing wrong on working on the weekends sometimes, right? If you're neglecting your family and other things consistently, that's one thing. But talked to my wife and I said, look, this is what I need to do. I need to clean it up because I've been on the road for basically 2 weeks. And so I did that. And now here I am. I've kind of came into Monday refreshed, already worked out for the day. So, it's okay to work on the weekends, sometimes appropriate times, not probably all the times, or unless, whatever works for you. I'm not going to tell anybody how they should or shouldn't work. So what's up, everyone? How are my innovative sellers doing out there? Yeah, we've hit like a couple thousand copies sold now of Innovative Seller, which is like amazing. So thank you, everyone, for all your support on that. And really, all these topics that we're sharing are kind of topics from the book. So for those of you who have not bought a copy of the book, like I don't know what you're waiting for. Let me get in on the live so I can see my chat. So if you see me looking over here, I'm just looking at chat over here as well too. So I got my chat, got my notes. Let me split screen those. And we'll do that. Left and LinkedIn right. And we're going to be good to go. All right. So what's going on, everyone? Make sure to drop your comments in here. Let me know where you're joining from. Where are you joining from? It's always fun for me. We've got a really diverse, international audience. So it's always fun. As things pop up, if you're like, Jake, that sounds really great, double click into that. Like, I want to know more. Like, please, I always say, be selfish, ask questions. Chances are, if you're, you're thinking of something, somebody else is as well too. I'll tell you what's pretty interesting. So today we're going to talk about why the hell is my email failing? My team, we've been pumping out more emails. We're making it happen and we're not hitting our numbers. Well, that sucks, right? Like, we all want to hit our numbers. What you're up against. I'm going to drop this stat in here as well. It predicted for next year. This is how many emails are sent every day. Okay. So look in the chat there at that number. It is large. Like I said, let me know where you're, as people join us, say hi, say, hey, everybody, I'm John Smith, etc. And yeah, make sure to do that. 376 billion emails. So look, it's getting more difficult to cut through. It is by no means impossible. So step one is you have to this is step 0, actually, before I get into the different steps here, is you have to change your mindset. You have to believe it's possible. If you don't believe it's possible, I can't do a lot for you, right? Like, if you don't believe, like, yeah, we can do it, I can hit those numbers, then the chances that you're going to succeed are like relatively low. Okay, so belief. You got to have a belief. It's possible. Other people are doing it. They've done it, etc. So, all right. So let's jump into it. Let's talk about why it's failing, what you need to do, and how you can actually win today. I was actually very fortunate. And if you joined our Innovative Seller Community Live on Thursday, we did office hours. Yeah, Thursday. That I was on site with one of our clients, which I don't do a ton of the hands-on consulting work as much anymore, but it was a lot of fun to be on site and to spend time with the team. Shout out to the people over at Yoda for hosting us, and a really productive 2 days. But one of the things that we spent a lot of time on is audience. And, I think what happens, and look, this is how I grew up in sales. How I grew up in sales is they said, look, you got a territory. We do really well in, tech sale. We do well in tech. We do well in finance. Here's a bunch of companies. Go target them. And, big, small, everything in between. Over time, one of the companies I was with for almost 4 years, they started to evolve. They started to realize, like, okay, we need to really get targeted by industry if we want to cut through the noise. And that, to me, is kind of priority one. Okay. Priority one for me, again, and I'm just going to kind of drop my tips, is you got to know if you want to cut through the noise. And this, I'm telling you, a lot of you might think you're doing this, but you're not. And what I mean by that is you might be like, no, Jake, no, I know we sell into finance. It's like, no. Get specific. You have to know the sub industries. So I talk a lot about this. I'm going to say I'm dropping something here in the chat, everyone. So come join me in the chat. I haven't seen any comments in the chat yet. Come on. We're slow on a Monday, I guess. We got a lot of folks in here now, about 30, 40. So here's kind of step one is your audience. So I'm just going to drop this in. Step one, know your who very specifically. And done. Okay, so drop that in the comments for you. What I mean by this is that it's not finance. Like, look, finance is like companies that do payments, regional banks, companies that do lending, right? Like there's a million different types of finance. And if you can't communicate to what it means to be a chief operations officer at a regional bank versus a payments company, you're not going to cut through the noise. And so that's really step one here. Like it is shocking to me how poorly we're seeing training and development programs. Like my friends, if you want to know the one thing that you could do to impact the quality of your reps outreach, I'm going to give it to you right now. Train them on the sub industry and the details of that persona in the sub industry. That way they can, and obviously we got a lot of ChatGPT stuff that can help you with that. Again, I'll check out this here too. If you guys haven't checked out some of our ChatGPT stuff, go check that out now because it can really help you to get to speed on this stuff quickly. And even if you don't, just poke around, you're going to learn some more stuff. So that's number one. If you want to not be a part of the 365 billion and instead you want to connect with a person, you have to know what they're going through, their sub industry, what the persona that you're reaching out to does in that sub industry, and then how we help the persona in that sub industry by what we do. That's it. It's like the little, I call it like the triangle here. The triangle that will let you, triangulate on like what you're doing. So that's it. You got to do that part. Okay. So then you're like, all right, Jake, well, great. I'm like, all right, I'm trying to write a message to, and actually, before I make that point, I'm going to triple down on that, on what I was just saying. I want you to also think about this. I want you to think about every email that you send. If your team also has the mindset, thinking of audience, I want to book a meeting with that person, not do 100 activities, that will also flip the whole mindset for you. It used to be, it's like I had my book, I've got 500 accounts, I'm going through, I'm finding the contact information, and I'm like, I remember this. I remember like when I was prospecting and doing that regularly, I'm like, okay, what message for this person do I think is going to get them to take action? And so audience wise, you really have to, that's why I call out that, sub industry, persona within that sub industry and the trends there, and then how we can help based on those things, our triad there as a part of it. All right. Next up, my friends, is, let's see here, messaging. All right, here it is. Tag your friends. Everyone wants to know, Jake, how do I write the absolute perfect email? Okay. Well, I'm going to try to tell you my version of this. Okay. And I'm also going to poo-poo some other people, and not to be negative, but just because I don't think it really is working. I'm open to being wrong. So I'm going to talk about like different things that you can do now that you know your audience. So again, and if you want, you can go to ChatGPT and say, hey, I've never sold into regional banks before. What are top 3 trends for the VP of operations at a regional bank with 25 locations? Cool. Educate yourself. ChatGPT can help you to learn really quickly. There's a lot of cool stuff it can do. Okay. So next up is messaging. So now let's assume that you're doing a good job of staying up to speed on, who can say it now? Sub industry, persona within the sub industry, how we help that persona in that sub industry, right? Drill that in your head. You have to do those 3 things. Okay. Then we talk about messaging. My friends, look, and again, I've given KD credit for this. My good friend, Kevin Dorsey, I've given him lots of kudos for it. It's because he just explains it so quickly. It's the difference between customization and relevancy. What I'm talking about, sub-industry, persona, what we do, how we help in that scenario, that's relevancy. Hey, Jake, I work with other VPs of operation or other CEOs of sales consulting companies. I know utilization is probably priority 1. Profitability is probability 2. And I think that we can help you with those things. Okay. This person actually, by the way, just so you know, I get an email that good once a quarter. Maybe one. That's how low the bar is, that I could count on one hand every year how many times I actually get an email that's even relevant. And I think too often we focus too much on customization, which is like, I saw this article you wrote, which, don't get me wrong, you should add that in as well too. But if you can just be relevant to them, if you can just literally show that you understand their space and show that you understand their world and what they're going through, that's usually good enough. So again, I like to reference like third-party data, like, hey, the work we've been doing, here's what Gartner said about it, etc. And again, this kind of idea of like how do I utilize LinkedIn? Like, LinkedIn should be used to create relationships. I've got a post coming up about that, doing a collab with SalesNav, so I'll make sure to reference this talk as well. The other piece I'll call out, I just kind of did a brain dump in the chat. So if you're in the chat, let me know. It's really bizarre. It's like I can only see my comments. So if someone just comments even like something, let me see if I can see it. Maybe it's because of this screen view that I have right now. I've never tried to do this like split screen thing before. Let me try to make it a little bigger. So that's what I would tell you. So the next is customize more than the first interaction. This is the one. If you hear anything that I say, this is the one that if you just do this, it will move the needle for you. So often it's like we did some research and then the first message is like all we customize. And then we use, what we call, it's called the bump email, the old bumpity bump, which is like the, hey, Jake, I want to bring this up to the top of your inbox. No new value added. Hey, Jake, just maybe now's not a good time. No value added. Hey, Jake, blah, blah, blah. No value added, etc. So, all right, I actually can see your comments on my phone. That looks like that's working. So I can see it here. So if you see me looking down, I might be able to hop in and just do my comments there. That might be easier. But again, customize more than the first touch point, right? And it could just be adding value. It could be like, hey, Jake, again, you try the relevancy approach. Hey, Jake, look, hey, I really enjoyed this article in particular that you posted, insert link. Based on what you said, here are the top 2 ways I think we might be able to help. Let me know if you have 25 minutes next Thursday at 4 to discuss, right? So just spend an extra minute customizing some additional ones. Okay. The last piece I'm going to talk about here with messaging, and then I'm going to get into channel and optimization, which if you are somebody who's bought the book and Innovative Seller, you're one of the thousands of people who made it a USA Today bestseller. Thank you so much. The new print will actually say national bestseller here. I will also correct, some people have called this out. Scott Leese is a buddy of mine, and I misspelled his name in the acknowledgments. So there you go. Don't misspell your friends' names, but they're fixing it, Scott. I promise. He got it called out by some people too, which is kind of funny. So one of the things I talk about, and my fourth point I'm going to make today, is around always optimization. It's the 4C. So make sure you get your butt in there and you do that. And if you want to learn more about the 4Cs and like these concepts, let me drop the link for the community real quick here. I think this is a good segue as well. Bop. And again, I can only see my comments. I can see them on my phone. So the last thing I'm going to call around messaging. So messaging, here's what I've talked about. One, relevancy is good enough in most cases. Really, if you know your persona, you know the sub-industry, you know how you can help there, and ChatGPT can help to train you if you don't know, if your boss has done a shitty job, okay? Then being super relevant is usually good enough. Then continue to bring relevancy and a little bit of customization on each touch point. Spend 45 seconds. Just anything is better than nothing. And then the last one I'm going to talk about here is use industry jargon. Okay, this is where ChatGPT is freaking amazing. So if I'm like, hey, I work for this company, and we've got in our custom GPTs, we have a bot called, like, the new one's called How to Book a Meeting With. It should be out hopefully by the end of the month. And it's like, here's the link, here's what I do. And then all you do is say like, okay, what are the top 3 value props for this persona and this sub industry, based on what we do and where we might be able to help. And then you say, make it more jargony. And then what it'll do is it'll start to pull out things that only somebody who's like in the know would know. And so if you use industry, not like sales jargon, use their industry jargon, it's so easy to stand out. And again, a lot of you might be like, Jake, I don't know shit about what the trends are in industrial manufacture. Like, that's great. You don't have to, right? So you don't really have to do any of that. All you really need to know is like, hey, jargon actually helps to separate. So do that. Okay, so that's messaging. My friends, if you do what I just said, okay, I I am 100%. And if it doesn't work, how about this? If it doesn't work, you DM me and I will personally do like a 2-hour screen share session with you where we will prospect together. Okay. If you're like, Jake, look, I am doing relevancy based emails. I'm customizing more than the first point. I'm inserting jargon and it's not working, right? Compared to your peers, I will personally do a 2-hour session with you and we will figure this out because we have seen it across our clients and we know it works. The thing I want to call out here is this: use their communication style. Before I transition, let me tell you this. I don't care how you communicate if you can add value. You might not communicate the way that I prefer. That's fine. But if you're adding a ton of value, I'll take it. And I think I've seen some new AI pop up, and it's not even new. These like email automation that's like based on my disc profile. Jake likes to speak directly. Well, pretty much all personas like to like most executives prefer direct communication. Like I will take a meeting with someone who doesn't communicate directly and is maybe a little fluff if they obviously show they know what the heck they're talking about. So don't over-index on their communication style. It's a joke. Instead, over-index on understanding their business, etc. Last, I'll talk about omni-channel approach. Okay, so the third piece here is step 3 is omni-channel. Okay, my friends, I wish you could just send emails and they would work. They don't on their own, rarely. So again, we have clients, right, that are using cold call and it is working like you would not believe. Now, the voicemail they'll leave, because again, keep in mind, guys, a voicemail in 2024 is like a text message. So I want you to think about that. Nobody likes to read. Nobody likes to listen to their voicemail. Oh, hi, Aunt Kelly. Oh, how are you? No, nobody does that, right? Instead, you look and you're like, oh, okay, I see what they actually said. Okay. So I want you to really think about that. Like a voicemail today is like a text message. So I could reference the email and go there. On LinkedIn, okay, I'm going to try to add value, etc. As a part of that. So something you might want to think about too is like time of day matters. I'm telling you, we've had clients where, and you got to check out what we're doing with Performance Pulse. If you use one of the major sales engagement platforms, we can pull out what time of day for every sequence individually and which piece of content converts the highest. It's bonkers, right? But the reason I call this out is like all these things matter, okay? Omni-channel, when we're reaching out. And you have to take this stuff seriously. I'm tired of like this idea that we should be optimizing our sequences every 6 months. Like it's archaic, like to optimize at that speed when we have the data. And that kind of gets into my fourth point, which is always adjusting. Okay, my friends, there is no such thing as in my, I'll give you my take on this. Too many sales leaders, and give me a thumbs up or a hallelujah. I don't know which one the hallelujah, the celebrate might be the hallelujah. If you can get down with what I'm about to say, there are too many sales leaders and sales reps and CROs that have opinions on what works for outbound. My friends, who cares about opinions? I care about data. I care about looking at the data historically. This subject line has been our top performer. How do we duplicate variations of that? How do we A/B test to make it even better? How do we bring the concept of that across all the other ones? And we're doing that every 2 to 3 weeks. Our clients right now that have at least, let's call it a handful to 10 plus, maybe 20 plus SDRs, anywhere from there, 5 to 20. We are optimizing the different sequences and steps every week or every other week. It's just like how you optimize your Google AdWords. Like if you're not, I have enough data. There are thousands of data points. This email's been sent 1,000 times. Like it's not magically going to change the results down the road. That's not how law of large numbers. Google that. Actually, here, drop it in here. This is like one of the things I learned in grad school. Law of large numbers. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and drop this in. Every single person who's involved in outbound. Okay, every single one of you should read up on this concept, law of large numbers. Okay, my friends? What it will tell you is you actually have a relevant sample size much faster than you think, right? Based on statistics. This isn't my opinion. And therefore, once you have a representative, you should be making optimizations. And so look, even when you know your audience, when you use the messaging techniques, that I talked about, You're doing a good job of doing omni-channel. You then are always looking at that. What channel's working? What's not working? Boom. Hey, step 5 is at 0% conversion. Step 6 is really high. What if I move step 6 to step 4? Right? Like, you have to look at outbound this way. It cannot just be set it and forget it, hit all. Like, that's why people aren't hitting numbers right now. You're not hitting numbers because you think outbound works like a set it and forget it, and you're not managing it like you manage your Google AdWords. Why do you think marketers are looking at that stuff 24/7? Oh, let's change the ad copy here. Let's do this to optimize for qualified opportunities in the pipeline. What are SDRs or what are sales reps who are doing their own prospecting? What are they optimizing for? Qualified opportunities in the pipeline. That's it, right? So that's my little my recap for you there. For those of you who are new to the game, maybe this is your first live you've joined. A couple other things I will call out. We'll do a quick recap here. Is if you haven't signed up for our free series, AI Unleashed, with me, Kevin Dorsey will be back next week. Me and KD every other week. We talk about trends in AI, etc. If you're somebody who's wanting to get better up to speed on generative AI and Chat GPT, if you do the workshops and the custom GPTs, my guarantee is if you implement what we talk about, it will save you at least 3 to 5 hours a week, which at the end of a year would give you almost 2 months, like a month and a half free. That is the power of Chat GPT. So if you've been following my content every week, you're like, man, Jake's a broken record, but repetition matters. Okay. So go check out all these different resources we have. Check out the community. And again, just to kind of summarize here, 4 things. Number 1, know your audience. If you want to separate yourself from the 306 billion email trap, I have to know the sub-industry trends, what my persona does in that, what's their job actually like in that industry, and then how we help a person in that role, in that industry to do their job better, make more money, whatever. You have to know your audience. I cannot help you if you will not invest time to know your audience. Number 2 is I have to put together messaging that is relevant. Okay. Customization is a bonus. I love a little customization. But if you can do those things and craft a message, hey, I know what you're going through. I know the trends. Then every step you're adding value, you're tossing in some industry jargon, you're using omni-channel, you're going to win. Okay. You're going to win. And then certainly last but not least, I guess I could talk a little bit about omni-channel in there. So we'll skip to 4, is got to have an always optimization mindset. Instead of, I want you to think about it. The math really isn't different. Instead of every 6 months, you disrupt everybody's lives and you spend 3 weeks, parts of 3-4 weeks rewriting everything. What if every week you spent 1 hour and you looked at what was top performing and you made one change of whatever was top performing? We made this change, and whatever was bottom performing, we killed. We just ran this with a client. They just got hooked into Performance Pulse. Hey, and by the way, we're continuing to look for alpha customers for Performance Pulse. So if you're somebody, you clicked on the link for Performance Pulse, and you're like, Jake, I would really be interested in this, and you're interested in just giving us feedback, like that's very interesting for us. So even if you look at Performance Pulse and you're like, I don't know if we have budget, don't worry about it. Like, we're just trying to get more eyeballs on it. I'll drop the link again real quick for you. Is the reason we developed it is like, it was impossible from these tools to actually get like, what's my worst performing subject line in the last 3 days that's been sent 1,000 times? Like, cool, like we can help you. So like, if you want to join the alpha, DM me. Okay. So that's what I got for you. That's how you stand out. You do those things, my friends. You do a good job of knowing who you're actually selling to and go deep on the sub industry. You do a good job of putting together messaging that's relevant and somewhat customized and definitely adding value on each step. You do omni-channel, you optimize it, and you will cut through. Okay. Again, I gave you the guarantee where you can hit me up for a free 2-hour session if it's not working. So thanks, everyone. Hope you have a great rest of your week. I do not believe I'll be live this week. I've got some cool videos that I'm dropping this week, so take a look at some of that. Got some controversial posts coming up. I kind of finished up some of my schedule for the next week. Love to get your take on it. So make sure to sign up to subscribe whenever I go live and get notified whenever I put a new post out. So thanks, everyone. Really appreciate you joining me, the hundreds of people that showed up, and we will see you all next Monday. Take care.